Sometimes the strongest response is no response at all. My dear friends, many of you are tired not because life is hard, but because you are explaining yourself to people who have already decided not to understand you. You are exhausted from proving your worth, from defending your intentions, from staying in places where your soul feels unheard. And today, I want to tell you something simple, yet life-changing. Not every battle deserves your energy. Not every relationship deserves your presence. And not every goodbye needs an announcement. When we hear the word silence, many of us feel uncomfortable. Silence feels like defeat. It feels like we didn't stand up for ourselves. It feels like we let someone win. From childhood, we are taught that strength means speaking up, arguing back, defending our position, proving our point. So when life presents a moment where walking away quietly is an option, the ego resists. The mind says, if I don't reply, they will think I'm weak. The heart says, if I stay silent, my pain will be invisible. And yet, with time and maturity, life teaches us a deeper truth. Silence is not weakness. Silence is wisdom in its most refined form. There is a difference between silence that comes from fear and silence that comes from clarity. Fear-based silence feels heavy. It feels like suppression. But wisdom-based silence feels light. It feels settled. It feels complete. When you are silent because you are scared, your heart keeps screaming inside. But when you are silent because you understand, your heart is calm. Nothing is left unsaid inside you. That is the silence of strength. Many conflicts in life don't continue because the issue is big. They continue because the ego is loud. Two people arguing are rarely fighting for truth, they are fighting to protect their image. In such moments, silence becomes powerful because it refuses to feed the fire. Fire needs oxygen. Arguments need reaction. When you don't react, you don't escalate. You don't allow someone else's emotional chaos to become your responsibility. There is a beautiful wisdom in understanding this early. Not every misunderstanding requires clarification. Not every accusation deserves a response. And not every opinion needs your approval. Some people don't want to understand you. They want to provoke you. They want a reactive on, not resolution. When you stay silent in such moments, you are not losing your voice. You are choosing where your voice matters. Silence also protects your inner world. Every argument you engage in occupies space in your mind long after the conversation ends. You replay words. You imagine better replies. You lose sleep over sentences that no longer matter. Silence saves you from this mental exhaustion. It keeps your energy intact. It keeps your focus clean. It keeps your heart from becoming a battlefield. Think about it deeply. The strongest people you admire are rarely the noisiest ones. They don't rush to defend themselves. They don't explain their intentions to everyone. They are rooted. They know who they are. When your identity is secure, you don't panic when someone misunderstands you. You don't chase validation. You trust that time, character, and consistency will speak louder than arguments ever could. Silence also teaches humility. It reminds us that we don't have to win every conversation to win in life. Sometimes letting go of the need to be right is the greatest victory. It frees the soul from constant comparison. It shifts the focus from controlling how others see you to strengthening how you see yourself. There is also a spiritual depth to silence. Many answers don't come through noise, they come through stillness. When you stop reacting, you start reflecting. You begin to see patterns. You recognize which battles drain you and which ones help you grow. Silence becomes a teacher. It shows you where to invest your energy and where to withdraw gracefully. And let us be honest. Words, when spoken in anger, often become regrets. Silence saves you from saying something you'll later wish you hadn't. It gives you time to respond instead of react. It turns impulsive emotion into conscious choice. That pause, that moment of restraint, is wisdom in action. Walking away silently is not about avoiding problems. It is about choosing peace over performance. It is about understanding that your worth does not decrease because someone failed to see it. It is about realizing that you don't need to attend every argument you were invited to. With time, you will notice something beautiful. The more you choose silence wisely, the stronger your presence becomes. People may not hear your words, but they will feel your stability. They will sense your calm, and calm is intimidating to chaos. So remember this gently. Silence is not the absence of strength. It is strength that has nothing to prove. It is wisdom that has matured enough to know. Sometimes the most powerful answer is none at all. Most people think walking away means giving up. They imagine it as failure, as weakness, as losing something important. But in reality, walking away is often the first moment you truly choose yourself. It is not an emotional reaction, it is an act of deep self-respect. And self-respect is not loud. It does not announce itself. It does not threaten. It simply knows its worth and refuses to negotiate it. Many people stay in situations far longer than they should, not because they are happy, but because they are hopeful. Hope that the other person will finally understand. Hope that effort will be appreciated one day. Hope that love, loyalty, or patience will change things. But hope without boundaries slowly turns into self-neglect. You keep giving, adjusting, forgiving, and shrinking until one day you realize the relationship didn't drain you overnight. It drained you slowly, quietly, piece by piece. Self-respect begins when you notice this pattern, and decide it ends with you. It begins when you understand that love should not cost you your dignity, that belonging should not require you to tolerate disrespect, that loyalty should not mean abandoning yourself. Walking away silently is powerful because it is not driven by anger. Anger wants to be seen. Anger wants to shout. Anger wants to hurt back. But self-respect doesn't need revenge. It doesn't need the last word. It doesn't need to explain why it is leaving. It simply leaves because it knows staying would be a betrayal of the self. There is a quiet confidence in this kind of exit. You don't insult, you don't accuse, you don't list everything the other person did wrong. You don't try to make them feel guilty, because self-respect understands something very important. People who don't value you will never suddenly value you because of a speech. They change only when they feel the absence, not the explanation. Many people fear walking away because they confuse it with arrogance. They think choosing themselves means they are being selfish or proud. But there is a difference between ego and self-respect. Ego says, I am better than you. Self-respect says, I deserve better than this. Ego wants to dominate. Self-respect wants peace. Staying where you are constantly disrespected teaches others how to treat you. Silence, combined with distance, teaches them something far stronger. Access to you is a privilege, not a right. When you walk away calmly, you are not punishing anyone. You are protecting yourself. And protection is not cruelty. It is responsibility. There is also a deep maturity in understanding that you don't need closure from people who never offered clarity. Many times, closure is not a conversation. It is a decision. The decision to stop waiting. the decision to stop explaining, the decision to stop hoping that someone will suddenly become who they've repeatedly shown you they are not. Walking away silently preserves your energy. It prevents unnecessary trauma. It keeps your heart clean. When you leave with bitterness, you carry the weight with you. But when you leave with dignity, you travel light. You move forward without poison in your soul. This kind of self-respect also strengthens your faith. It teaches you to trust that what leaves your life is making space for what truly belongs. That God does not remove people to punish you, but to protect you. That rejection is often redirection in disguise. Over time, something beautiful happens. The same silence that once felt scary begins to feel empowering. You stop needing validation from places that drained you. You stop chasing explanations. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into rooms where you were never meant to belong. And the most powerful part, you don't become cold. You don't become bitter. You don't lose your kindness. You simply learn where to place it. Self-respect doesn't harden the heart. It teaches the heart discernment. So remember this, walking away silently is not running from something. It is returning to yourself. It is saying, I choose peace over chaos, dignity over drama, growth over familiarity. And when that choice is made with calm conviction, life slowly begins to meet you at a higher standard. Many people believe that every ending needs an explanation, that every goodbye must come with a long conversation, a detailed justification, a final emotional exchange that ties everything neatly together. We are taught that closure comes from talking it out, from hearing the other person say, "Tia, I understand," from walking away feeling acknowledged. But life, very gently and very honestly, teaches us something different. Not everyone is capable of giving you closure, and not everyone deserves it. Closure is often misunderstood. We think it is something another person gives us. In reality, closure is something we grant ourselves the moment we accept the truth. And the truth is this: some people already know what they did. They know where they crossed the line. They know when they stopped trying. They know when they chose convenience over commitment, ego over empathy, comfort over conscience. Explaining it to them doesn't bring clarity. It only reopens wounds. There are moments when you sit across from someone and pour your heart out one last time. You explain how they hurt you. You tell them how confused you felt. You describe the sleepless nights, the self-doubt, the silent tears. And as you speak, you realize something painful. They are listening, but they are not hearing. Their eyes may be on you, but their heart is closed. In that moment, you understand that words are no longer bridges. They are echoes. Seeking closure from such people is like knocking on a door that has already been locked from the inside. You keep knocking because you hope they'll open it, but every knock drains you a little more. Silence then becomes your way of walking away with what little energy you have left intact. Not everyone deserves access to your vulnerability. Not everyone deserves one last explanation. Some people misuse closure as a way to defend themselves, to rewrite the saint or to minimize your pain. They turn your honesty into a debate, your feelings into an inconvenience, your boundaries into an attack. In such situations, silence is not avoidance, it is protection. There is also a quiet dignity in understanding that you don't owe clarity to those who thrived on confusion. You don't owe explanations to people who ignored you when you spoke clearly the first time. Closure is not repeating yourself to someone who chose not to listen. Closure is accepting that you were clear enough and they were unwilling enough. Many people fear leaving without closure because they worry it will haunt them. But what truly haunts us is not the absence of a final conversation. It is the absence of self-respect during the process. When you walk away after saying everything that needed to be said, even if only to yourself, your conscience is clear. Your heart knows the truth, even if the other person never accepts it. There is a deep inner maturity in realizing that peace is more important than being understood by everyone. Some chapters don't end with answers, they end with acceptance. Acceptance that this is who they are. Acceptance that this is how far they could meet you. Acceptance that staying longer would only mean losing yourself further. Silence in these moments becomes a boundary. It says, I will not keep reopening this wound just to make you comfortable. It says, I choose healing over history. It says, I don't need you to agree with my decision for it to be right. Spiritually, this is also an act of faith. It is trusting that God sees the all story, even when people only see the version that suits them. It is believing that justice doesn't always come through explanations. Sometimes it comes through distance, sometimes it comes through time. Sometimes it comes through growth so visible that no words are needed. When you stop chasing closure from others, you start finding it within. You reflect, you learn, you release, you forgive. Not always for them, but for yourself. You stop asking, why did this happen? And start asking, what is this teaching me? That shift changes everything. And one day, you wake up and realize you no longer need that conversation you once rehearsed 1,000 times in your head. The urge to explain has faded. The need to be validated has softened. What remains is calm. What remains is clarity. What remains is freedom. So remember this gently. Closure is not a gift someone gives you when they are ready. It is a decision you make when you are done abandoning yourself. Sometimes the most healing sentence is the one you never speak, because walking away silently was enough explanation. Detachment is often misunderstood. People hear the word and immediately imagine coldness, distance, or indifference. They think detachment means you stop caring, stop feeling, stop loving. But true detachment has nothing to do with becoming hard-hearted. In fact, it comes from a place of deep awareness and compassion, both for others and for yourself. Detachment is not the absence of love, it is the absence of unnecessary suffering. Many of us suffer not because we love too deeply, but because we attach too tightly. We tie our peace to people's behavior. We tie our happiness to outcomes we cannot control. We tie our self-worth to how consistently someone shows up, and when those people change, leave, or disappoint us, we feel shattered, not because we are broken, but because we place something fragile at the center of our emotional world. Detachment teaches us a different way to live. It NDS us that we can care without clinging. We can love without losing ourselves. We can be present without being dependent. This is not emotional withdrawal. It is emotional maturity. Think about it. When you are attached, your mood rises and falls based on someone else's actions. A message makes your day. Silence ruins it. Approval energizes you. Criticism drains you. Detachment breaks this unhealed cycle. It brings your emotional center back to where it belongs, within you. This doesn't mean you stop investing in relationships. It means you stop expecting them to complete you. You stop demanding that people behave a certain way for you to feel okay. You stop bargaining with life. And in that surrender, something beautiful happens. Freedom. Detachment also brings clarity. When you are emotionally entangled, your vision is blurred. You justify behavior you shouldn't. You excuse patterns that hurt you. You stay longer than necessary because you are afraid of the emptiness that might follow. Detachment removes this fog. It allows you to see people as they are, not as you wish them to be. There is a spiritual wisdom here. Life is constantly changing. People evolve. Circumstances shift. When we try to hold on to what is meant to move, we create pain. Detachment is trusting that God knows what He is taking away and why. It is believing that what is truly meant for you will not require you to chase it, beg for it, or suffer for it endlessly. Many people fear detachment because they think it will make them lonely. But the truth is, detachment often brings a deeper sense of calm. Action, first with yourself and then with life itself. When you are no longer desperate for approval, you become more authentic. When you are no longer afraid of loss, you love more purely. Detachment also protects your inner peace. You stop replaying conversations in your head. You stop overanalyzing tone, timing, and intention. You stop trying to control outcomes that were never in your hands. Your mind becomes quieter. Your heart becomes steadier. This freedom doesn't come overnight. Detachment is a practice. Some days you succeed, some days you struggle. But every time you choose not to react, not to cling, not to chase, you grow a little stronger. You learn that peace is not found in possession, but in trust. And here is the most important part. Detachment does not mean closing your heart. It means opening it without fear. When you are detached, you can wish people well even if they can no longer walk with you. You can let go without bitterness. You can move forward without carrying resentment. In time, you realize that detachment is not loss. It is liberation. It is the quiet confidence of knowing that your joy does not depend on anything outside you. It is the deep relief, of no longer fighting reality. So remember this, you don't detach because you stopped loving. You detach because you started loving yourself enough to choose peace. And in that peace, life begins to feel lighter, clearer, and more aligned with who you are meant to become. When people hurt you, misunderstand you, or doubt you, there is a strong urge to explain yourself, to prove your intentions, to show them who you really are. The mind says, if they just understood me, everything would be fine. So you prepare arguments in your head. You rehearse conversations. You imagine the moment they finally realize their mistake. But life teaches us, often the hard way, that explanations rarely change people who have already made up their minds. Growth, however, does. Your life has a language of its own. It speaks through your habits, your consistency, your discipline, and your peace. And that language is far more convincing than any defense you could ever give. When you walk away quietly and focus on becoming better instead of becoming bitter, something powerful begins to happen. You stop leaking energy into arguments and start investing it into yourself. Growth is a silent process. Seeds do make noise when they grow. Roots develop in darkness. Real transformation happens away from the spotlight. When you stop explaining and start evolving, you align yourself with this natural rhythm. You allow your actions to speak in ways words never could. There is a quiet dignity in choosing self-improvement over self-justification. When someone doubts you, you can either spend months trying to convince them, or you can spend months building a life that makes explanation unnecessary. One approach drains you, the other elevates you. Many people underestimate the power of time combined with consistent effort. They want immediate validation, immediate understanding, immediate acknowledgement. But time reveals truth more accurately than any conversation. When people see you calmer, stronger, more focused, and more fulfilled. Their opinions naturally lose importance. Not because they changed, but because you did. Growth also changes your internal dialogue. When you are stuck in arguments, your mind stays in the past. You replay what was said, what should have been said, and what you wish had happened. When you focus on growth, your mind shifts to the future. You start asking better questions. What can I learn from this? How can I improve? What is this moment preparing me for? That shift alone is transformative. There is also a spiritual lesson here. When you trust that God is shaping your journey, you stop needing to control how others perceive you. You realize that character is built in private and revealed in public. That sincerity doesn't need advertisement. That truth doesn't need defense. It simply stands. Silence during your growth phase confuses those who expect a reaction. They may interpret it as weakness at first, but over time, silence paired with visible progress becomes undeniable. Not in an arrogant way, but in a grounded, peaceful way. You are no longer trying to be seen. You are too busy becoming. This approach protects your heart as well. When you argue, you reopen wounds. When you grow, you heal them. You redirect pain into purpose. You turn disappointment into discipline. You transform rejection into redirection. And slowly, what once hurt you becomes the reason you are stronger. Another beautiful outcome of choosing growth over explanation is humility. You stop measuring your worth by others' approval. You become less reactive, less defensive, more grounded. You don't feel the need to correct every misunderstanding because you know who you are. And that self-knowledge is deeply stabilizing. People who once doubted you may one day respect you, or they may not. But that outcome becomes irrelevant, because the real victory was never their approval. The real victory was your evolution. So let your progress speak. Let your consistency answer. Let your peace explain what words never could. When you grow quietly, you don't just silence doubters. You silence your own insecurities. And that is a level of freedom no argument can ever give you. There comes a point in life where you realize something very simple, yet very profound. Winning every argument does not make you peaceful. In fact, many times it does the opposite. You may walk away feeling victorious, but your mind keeps replaying the conversation. Your heart remains restless. Your sleep is disturbed. And slowly you begin to understand that being right is not the same as being free. The ego loves to win. It feeds on validation. It wants to prove, to dominate, to establish superiority. And arguments are the ego's favorite playground. In an argument, the ego feels alive. It sharpens its words. It builds its case. It waits for applause, or at least surrender. But while the ego celebrates, the soul quietly suffers. Peace, on the other hand, asks for something very different. Peace asks for humility. It asks for restraint. It asks you to step back and say, this is not worth my inner balance. And that decision, to value peace over victory, is one of the highest forms of emotional intelligence. Many conflicts persist not because they matter, but because neither side wants to let go. Two people pulling a rope in opposite directions, both convinced that letting go means losing. But what if letting go is the win? What if dropping the rope frees both hands to build something better? Walking away silently in such moments is not avoidance. It is discernment. It is knowing which battles shape your character and which ones only drain it. Some arguments don't make you stronger, they make you bitter. They don't bring clarity, they bring confusion. Peace requires you to recognize the difference. There is also a deep fatigue that comes from constantly defending yourself. When you are always explaining, correcting, and justifying, life becomes heavy. You start living in reaction mode. Your emotional energy is spent responding instead of creating. See, choosing peace interrupts this cycle. It returns your power to you. Ask yourself honestly, how many arguments have truly changed someone's heart? How many heated conversations have led to lasting understanding? Very few. Most arguments only reinforce positions. People don't listen to understand, they listen to reply. In such an environment, peace becomes the wiser choice. Choosing peace also means accepting that not everyone will agree with you. And that's okay. Agreement is not a requirement for self-worth. When you stop needing everyone's approval, you experience a lightness that is deeply liberating. You begin to move through life without constantly bracing yourself for conflict. Spiritually, peace is a higher pursuit than victory. It aligns you with patience, compassion, and trust. It teaches you to surrender outcomes you cannot control. It reminds you that God's justice does not require your constant defense. Sometimes, silence is faith in action. There is also courage in choosing peace. It takes strength to remain calm when provoked. It takes maturity to walk away when the ego wants to engage. Anyone can argue. Few can stay composed. That composure is not weakness, it is masked. Over time, you will notice a shift within yourself. Situations that once triggered you no longer have the same power. Words that once wounded you lose their sting. Not because people changed, but because you did. You learned that your peace is too valuable to be handed over to every passing opinion. Choosing peace doesn't mean you tolerate disrespect. It means you respond to it wisely. The response is a boundary, sometimes it is distance, and sometimes it is silence. Peace does not always look passive. Often it looks like walking away with your dignity intact. And here is the beautiful truth. When you choose peace consistently, life starts responding differently. Your relationships become healthier. Your decisions become clearer. Your mind becomes calmer. You stop living in reaction and start living with intention. So ask yourself, again and again, do I want to win this moment or do I want to protect my inner world? Because the moment you choose peace over winning, you don't lose anything of value. You gain yourself. And that is the greatest achievement of all. There is a quiet comfort in knowing that not everything is in your hands. And that's not a weakness, it is a relief. When you walk away silently, you are not just leaving a situation or a person, you are placing your trust somewhere higher than your own control. You are acknowledging that life has a rhythm, a justice, and a wisdom that operates far beyond immediate reactions. And that trust is deeply spiritual. Many people think strength means handling everything on their own, carrying every burden, fighting every battle, proving every point. But real strength comes when you realize you don't have to. There are moments when the most powerful thing you can say is nothing, and the most powerful thing you can do is step back and let life unfold. This is not passivity, it is faith. When you are wronged, the instinct is to defend yourself, to set the record straight, to ensure your version of the story is heard, and sometimes that is necessary. But there are moments when explaining yourself only entangles you further. The more you speak, the more misunderstood you become. In such moments, silence is not surrender, it is surrendering the outcome to God. There is something deeply grounding about knowing that you don't need to fight for truth. Truth has a way of standing on its own. You don't need to chase justice. Justice has its own timing. You don't need to prove your worth. Your existence itself is proof. When you trust this, your heart becomes lighter. Walking away silently requires immense inner strength. It asks you to let go of the desire to be seen as right. It asks you to release the need for immediate validation. It asks you to trust that what is meant for you will then only be lost because you stayed quiet. This kind of trust doesn't come easily. It is built through reflection, patience, and a deep connection with something greater than yourself. Spiritually, silence has always been a place of power. In silence, we hear more clearly. In silence, we reflect more honestly. In silence, we grow. When you remove yourself from noise and conflict, you create space for insight. You begin to see why certain people had to leave, why certain doors had to close, why certain lessons had to hurt. Silence turns pain into understanding. There is also a profound humility in trusting God with outcomes. It means accepting that you don't control how others perceive you. It means letting go of the urge to manage every narrative. It means believing that if you act with integrity, life will eventually align in your favor. Even if it takes time, this trust protects you from bitterness. When you believe that life is unfair and that you must fight for every inch, resentment builds. But when you trust that nothing meant for you can pass you by, you soften. You stop hardening your heart. You stop seeing everyone as a threat. You move through life with grace. Over time, you begin to notice something subtle but beautiful. The same situations that once triggered anxiety now bring calm. The same accusations that once demanded a response now pass without disturbance. Not because you stopped caring, but because you started trusting. Walking away silently becomes an act of devotion. It says, I will not allow anger to shape my actions. It says, I choose patience over pride. It says, I trust that what I release will be replaced with something better. And life does respond. Not always immediately, not always obviously, but in ways that feel aligned, peaceful, and deeply right. You meet people who respect you without explanation. You find yourself in spaces where you don't have to defend your worth. You feel lighter, freer, and more at ease with who you are becoming. So remember this truth. God sees the silence others overlook. He understands the restraint behind it, and He honors it, not by giving you revenge, but by giving you peace. And that peace, once you taste it, becomes something you will never willingly give up again. Before we close, I want you to pause for a moment and reflect, not on what you lost when you walked away, but on what you protected. You protected your peace. You protected your self-respect. You protected the quiet voice inside you that said, this is not aligned with who I am becoming. And that, my dear friend, is not a small thing. That is a sacred choice. Walking away silently is one of the most misunderstood acts in life. People may assume you gave up. They may assume you couldn't handle it. They may even rewrite the story in a way that favors them. Let them. Because the goal was never to manage perceptions. The goal was to preserve your soul. There is a deep maturity in understanding that not every ending needs applause, explanation, or acknowledgement. Some endings are meant to be quiet, so that healing can be loud inside you. Some doors close softly, so that your heart doesn't shatter in the noise. When you choose silence, you are not choosing emptiness. You are choosing space. Space to breathe, space to heal, space to grow. And in that space, clarity emerges. You begin to see how much of your energy was being spent just trying to hold things together. You realize that peace was always available, but it required you to stop forcing what was never meant to stay. Faith plays a powerful role here. Faith is trusting that what leaves your life is not punishment, but protection. That God is not taking something away to hurt you, but to free you. That when you walk away with integrity, you're being guided toward something more aligned, more nourishing, more true. Life does not reward loud exits, it rewards peaceful decisions made with courage. It rewards those who choose character over chaos, patience over pride, and wisdom over impulse. The world may celebrate drama, but the soul craves stillness, and one day you will look back and feel gratitude for the strength you didn't even know you had. You will thank yourself for not reacting, for not begging, for not shrinking. You will realize that the silence you once feared became the foundation of your confidence. The most beautiful part? You don't lose your kindness. You don't lose your compassion. You don't lose your faith in people. You simply learn where to place it. You become selective, not cynical. You become wise, not wounded. So if today you are standing at a crossroads, one path leading back to noise, arguments, and exhaustion, and the other leading to quiet, dignity, and peace, choose the quieter path. It may feel lonely at first, but it will never feel empty. Remember this always. When you walk away silently, you are not running from life, you are running toward alignment, toward peace, toward the version of yourself that no longer needs to prove, explain, or fight to be whole. And in that silence, God whispers what the noise never allowed you to hear, that you are enough, you are guided, and you are exactly where you need to be. Walking away silently is not an ending. It is a graduation ceremony. You graduate from needing validation. You graduate from explaining your pain to people who never listened. You graduate from shrinking yourself to keep others comfortable. Silence, when chosen consciously, is not emptiness. It is alignment. Life will test you again. People will misunderstand you again. Situations will tempt you to react again. And in those moments, remember this: your peace is not fragile, but it is precious. Spend it wisely. You don't need to prove your goodness. You don't need to announce your growth. You don't need to fight to be valued. What is meant for you will meet you in calm, not chaos. What belongs to you will recognize you without explanation. So walk away when your soul feels heavy. Stay silent when words would lower you. Trust when letting go feels scary, because life has a strange way of honoring quiet courage. And God has a beautiful habit of replacing what you release in faith with something that brings you peace instead of pain. Remember this always. Don't let your success make you proud. Let it make you peaceful. And when you choose peace, you choose a life that no argument could ever give you. Not everything you walk away from is a loss. Some things are released so your hands can finally hold what God has prepared for you. When you choose silence over conflict, dignity over drama, faith over fear, you are not stepping back, you are stepping higher. Trust this deeply. God never removes something from your life without a reason, and He never asks you to let go without already planning what will replace it. So walk forward with peace in your heart. Let your actions be honest. Let your faith be strong. Let your silence be graceful. Because when you live with integrity and trust God with the outcome, life has no choice but to align in your favor. And remember, those who walk away with faith never walk alone.